Hey everybody, GingerHacker here, and I would like to say welcome back to the channel and our amazing running series of Breaking into Cyber, as well as we go into our story and our deeper dive into the Try Hack Me SOC Level 1 Analyst Path. So excited today that we do have a video sponsor, and that is Pocket Prep. Now, if you've not heard of Pocket Prep before, Pocket Prep is one of the go-to exam preps I love to use. It is not only one, very user-friendly, but two, also extremely cost-effective for young security analysts, pen testers, professionals trying to break into cyber. And I wanted to kind of showcase a few things today with you guys just to kind of go over how easy and fun this gamified means of learning cybersecurity is. Now, Pocket Prep has over 25 different IT security exams available to you. By simply just going through this entire list, we have most of all of the CompTIA certifications, your CEH, and the dreaded CISSP that you can prep for to make sure that not only are you prepared for that exam, but you're ready to pass. Now, once you actually get into the website, you'll see that not only do you have ways to set up your questions of the day, hit your amazing long day streaks, but also you can do level up quizzes. You can do only reviews for missed questions you had. And as quickly as you want, let's say you want to change exams. Right now, as you can see, I've been studying for my Cloud Plus. And the cool thing with these questions as well is when these drop into as well, not only is it going to tell you if it's right, it's going to give you a solid example on why that answer is correct, and also the references inside the exam books from the source to make sure that you know exactly where you're getting these solutions from. Another fun way that I like to do this is I like to give myself fun timed quizzes. So you can go up to as much as 100 minutes to a quick 5-minute study session. Another thing you can do as well is build your own exam and build your own questions. So maybe you want to just hit a solid 50 questions a day. You can quickly go into here, you can choose your subjects, you can determine if you want to have that be a manual submission, if it automatically submits and goes on to the next one, or even if it shows you those answered questions as you go and gives you examples. So let me tell you, if studying is made easy, Pocket Prep's probably the best way to do it. And being so cost effective and easy to prep for your exams, Pocket Prep is definitely the go-to study prep that I would recommend for you to pass that exam and help break into cyber. So what are you waiting for? Check the link below. You're going to see an affiliate link, of course, that's going to give you an amazing discount to help you break into cyber. All right. Welcome back, everybody. My name's Andrew, and very excited to have with us on the channel for our second episode of the year of 2026, Breaking into Cyber, the one, the only, Sean Tufts over at Clarity. And Sean and I actually met this past year at GerCon out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And Sean, so glad to have you on the channel, and thank you for coming on. I'm going to pass it to you for a quick introduction.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Yeah, Sean Tufts. I'm a Field CTO at Clarity. I've spent most of my career in the power or oil and gas markets. I was at General Electric for a little bit, and they said, who wants to learn cyber? And I was like, that sounds fun. So I got into that. And then Clarity is a software company that focuses only on OT or SCADA security. And I landed over here about 9 months ago and having a great time.
Well, Sean, I'm very excited to get to dive into the channel today on your background, especially getting to hear one of your great talks that you actually gave at GerCon this year, but we will get to that shortly. So, but to hit off the bat with our first question that we ask everyone when we come onto the channel is cybersecurity. Not everyone decides this when they're back in school, when we have our career day choices and get to tell our first and second and third grade teachers of what do you want to be when you grow up. We say doctors, we say lawyers, we say football players, and we say all kinds of things. But obviously, we kind of got into cybersecurity. So do you mind kind of sharing with the audience kind of your journey of how and where your journey kind of took place and how you landed into the cyber career you're into today?
Yeah. Cyber found me, which was kind of fun. I think that's a way for most people. There are definitely people who go out there and like, I want to learn this, and they go do that. Mine was... I was in the right place, right time. So I mentioned on the intro a little bit. So I had done a bunch of wind farm development and built a couple of real wind farms that are still spinning today. Hopped over to GE Oil and Gas and was doing like equipment supply into pipelines and things like that. And they literally bought a company and said, they sent out an email to like 300,000 people that said, who knows our clients and wants to learn cyber? And I was like, that sounds really cool. I want to do that. And so they flew me up to Vancouver for a practical exam, and
Okay. Dang.
7 minutes. I had never had any like networking basis, no identity, nothing. I was just raw. I knew like heavy compressors and things like that, and power plants and wind turbines, but I had no idea. So I remember 7 minutes in, this dude's like ports and protocols, like we're going deep at it. And I stopped him after a bit. I was like, this doesn't feel good. And he was like, you have 0 points. And I was like, it's not going to get better. And he was like, I get it. But you know, we took that time and I kind of ended the like practical. I was like, this isn't going to go well. So why are you asking these questions? What does this one mean? What are you trying to get out of this question? Why are you asking it that way? What do you mean by this? And we had a great role. So he put me into the cyber group as an advisor to try to like understand what our clients were doing and why. And that was like this one moment in one trip where my whole life was different after.
No, and it's funny you say like that practical sense, because I think there's many of us all across our experience levels, whether that's breaking in to junior levels, to senior levels, to interviewing even at the CISO level, where it's just like you get to those technical-esque questions or any type of, call it a proctored exam test. And I myself, I hate tests. I am a horrible test taker. It's not my jam. I am very much on the aspects like, well, let's just talk it out. Like, what do you want out of this exam other than me to pass with a passing score, right? And I think it's a great way. And honestly, I think, Sean, one thing I think that you obviously excel with is it's the communication aspect of it, right? And it's a lot of folks that get into these advisor roles, the language they can speak is almost like that translator between the business needs and then the technical asks that they're both trying to come with your CISOs and your CFOs and your director levels to find everything that kind of meets in the middle, right? And I'm sure you've known this by talking to many of the companies you get to work with. You'll talk to some probably CISOs or managers or directors that are tech savvy. They got the degrees, they have the technical expertise, but then you have the others that are just really good business partners and they're really good, smart at the business aspect of helping organizations grow. So one kind of follow-up question I kind of have for you, because that's actually fantastic that kind of breaks you into your first kind of initial role that got you into cybersecurity. What are some things that you see across the threshold of folks you gotten to talk to that maybe is the most largest disconnect of maybe cybersecurity concerns and like best business practices? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And we see that a lot on the critical infrastructure side because there's so little has been done that a lot of what we do on like the business to cyber component, we have a lot to do, right? In the critical infrastructure side, we only really came to this like renaissance of cyber very recently, like too recently. So we have a lot of stuff to do. And in most cases, you can't do it all. You can't do more than like 1 or 2 projects a year. So really picking which one you want to do. So we talk a lot about just prioritization. What's number one from like a technical aspect, right? How do we lower risk the fastest? What are our biggest weak points? Like all that kind of known like technical part, super important. But then also what can your people do? Like what are your people trained to do? Do you have a bunch of like heavy wonks that are going to go like cut up a network? Or do you have a bunch of automation people that automation meaning like Rockwell automation stuff who can build great systems but don't really know how to like vocalize it and don't know how to do the cyber part. So finding and pushing and pulling the levers that are there has been really important, especially in a relatively new arena. There are very, very few OT cyber folks. We're training the first class right now. Other than that, we've just repositioned people. And so in that repositioning, that's what we've always been doing. And it's gone well so far, or going well.
Well, that actually bleeds into a perfect third question I kind of have for you too. And it's kind of the chicken before the egg-esque question when it comes into, I'd say, folks trying to break into cyber. But with your experience and just your thoughts, and there's no wrong answer, experience, certifications, and education, where do you rank the 3 and why?
Experience, certification, what was the other one?
So experience, certification, and then education.
Okay. Certifications are last for me. I think the experiential side is much more important. You know, in my little book stack is the CISSP and all that stuff. And I remember taking those classes, which, you know, I took the exam, didn't go well. It's fine. I didn't lose a job because of it. It's fine. I got the lessons, which is what I wanted.
Yes.
I'm kind of like you on the test taking front. That's not my jam, right? You give me a B, C, or D. I'm going to get it to the two options, you know, which Usually leads to about a 50% on the exam. But that wasn't my quest, right? I just wanted to be enriched in the topic and make sure I had heard every part of every conversation, because there's certainly right answers and wrong answers. But for the most part, having my role anyway is really having that generalist piece. So the one I would rank up the most would be experience. And I tell a lot of people this, just go get a job, especially breaking in, help desk. That's a great spot to start learning and transition into a SOC. It's a great position to learn. And if you can do that for 1 or 2 years and stomach the help desk world, which I know probably a lot of your listeners have done, then you're in a position to be smarter, right?
I think, so first off, it's like the aspect of like, I explain to people like, being within cybersecurity itself and taking exams and like, just like taking the exam to pass it and like to collect all the Pokemon badges, right? It's like you could have an alphabet soup behind your last name with CISM, CISSP, GREM, GSEC, CASP, all of it. But I think, like you said, that really hits the nail on the head for me is like, it's the learning of all the material that comes out of it. If you're just like brain dumping all this stuff to get the certifications and to get the checkbox for an organization, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And the example I like to give people too is like, especially like in like a technical world, if you're trying to problem solve a solution, it's not gonna be like, okay, is it A, the firewall? Is it B, the analyst? Is it C, the endpoint? Like there's no ABCD selection. It's you're regurgitating and going back to that knowledge you learned and then implementing those into best practices. Where just like I think you said, being like a well-rounded analyst or CTO or professional that can talk a little bit on everything. Like you may not be the SME or subject matter expert on a specific thing, but to be able to have like a conversation and like say, hey, no, that's not right though. And the reason why I know that's just because this training and that experience still carries a lot of weight rather than having all the abbreviations of certifications behind your name. So yes, I think that's 100% right.
I think this too, because I went to college, right? I got a master's or MBA at one point, and I don't think none of the lessons ever stuck, right? And I think a lot about, there's some Eastern, I don't know who said it, it might be Sun Tzu, I don't have any idea who it was, but when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear, right? That to me really rings true, because I can't sit in a networking class and learn that subject until I really need to know it. And then my brain will absorb it and just plug all that stuff in, maybe a little too late. But I really have to have that, like my brain has to click in and want the information. I can't just shove it in there. So, and maybe that means I'm stupid, but it's the way it's worked so far.
Well, Sean, another one too is just keeping up to date with cyber news and evolving threats and everything within like the OT specific dangers as well. What do you kind of do to keep track of all the up and coming threats and things going on within our day-to-day world? Is there a repository you like to read, or is it just kind of keeping eyes on the news, bleeping computers, or like, what do you do to keep up to date with all these kind of threats happening within your kind of realm within OT security?
Yeah, all those ones are really good. All the in-depth media sources, right? The non-in-depth media sources are the worst place, especially on OT security, right? Because anything in our sphere is like, you either jump directly to World War III or something. So that's never all that helpful. There's a couple really good Discord channels that are out there that really talk about OT security, and it's people really vetting ideas and having fun with it. And it's a good little community. Reddit, not so much, but it is popular, and there is some interesting things happening in that sphere. I'm lucky at my company, and this isn't a plug or not meant to be, but we've got some really, really good research analysts who bring us things. And they are mostly in Tel Aviv. So I get a lot of like my early morning, I'm reading through what they've been publishing and things they've been finding and that kind of stuff. So I've really enjoyed that. Oh no, I should mention that because they have a public feed that you can subscribe to as well. So on the Clarity 282 website, you can go get their like dump for free, especially around vulnerabilities around devices. And they do publish why is it important and all that kind of stuff. So they do a really good job of that. That's one I am close to and can and pick up a lot of news from.
Heck yeah, man. I'll make sure before I'll see this goes live and everything, we'll grab those repositories too. We'll drop them in the comments below. Because I think those being inside threat intelligence and also just being knowing what's going on across the world, across all spectrums in cyber is also just a skill in itself, because everything's changing every 3 months. And to find all these cool little one-offs or kind of vulnerabilities or kind of things that are being talked about, or kind of even the conversations that are happening about what's going on. And I love how you mentioned Discord, because I'm actually also part of several good Discord communities that there's such diamond in the rough aspects. Like, yeah, X, Reddit, you're doom scrolling and it's a hit and miss. Same thing for X. But there's so many different little like hidden pockets of good information you can find just to level up your intelligence aspect, and also just kind of see what's going on across like the network and other folks in the community that are also kind of asking and dealing with these same kind of questions, solutions, are trying to grow.
I think too, my the little Field CTO community in the critical infrastructure space on LinkedIn, we're kind of competitive. So like when I see Sandeep at Nozomi do something, I want to like one up him. Obviously, Rob Lee at Dragos is always publishing stuff, and you always want to like get one up, right? It's kind of fun. So there's a lot of really good people on LinkedIn that are publishing things coming to market. Luckily, in the OT space, things are slow. So like hacks are slow, right? Like our dwell time in OT is literally decades at times. So we have time to discuss it on LinkedIn rather than IT cyber, which is a lot faster.
Well, Sean, you and I have had some good talks on and off the screen here. But I mean, one thing too, I kind of wanted to kind of bring up that we discussed earlier is like cybersecurity burnout and the importance kind of maybe self-care in this industry. And I know like SOC burnout's real. Imposter syndrome's real. The amount of work an analyst, an engineer, a CISO, a director, anyone across this field can be sometimes some days very overwhelming. What are some things that you think are important to kind of think on when it comes to that kind of self-care? And maybe what are some things you try to do to kind of like unwind, relax, and kind of de-stress when you kind of have those really impactful days that maybe kind of take a strain at you?
Yeah, I guess to start with like my dark point, right? Like mid-COVID, I was brand new to a new team. I was hand selecting and growing a team. I had about 20 direct reports, and we were doing consulting projects on cool, fun stuff. And I was pretty much going from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. straight. So 26, 27 meetings a day on the consultancy side. So not on the operator side. So if something were to break for us, it was like a font wouldn't update in PowerPoint, and that was a big emergency. But it was still a lot. And you end up not leaving your desk. And then at the same time, it was mid-COVID, and that was pretty rough. And I had 2 really young kids. So when I walked out that door, I was getting handed an infant, and it was like I had about 3 seconds a day to myself, which was a challenge. All the healthy signals in my life kind of were like dimming down, right? Like I wasn't working out as much. I wasn't like investing in friend relationships and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so that got pretty bad for about a year and a half. And I think I broke a little bit and just stopped caring as much. Number one. Number two, I surrounded myself with some really, really bright people. Specifically 2 cats I want to call out. Stephen Mosia, who's now at what the hell is he? One of the big 4. They're all the same to me. Yeah. And then a guy named Jason King, who's still back at Optiv, where I was before. And those 2 guys I found a ton of value because those 2 people were so different than me. One was really detail oriented and kept me like from screwing up everything pretty much. And the other guy was very much like he thought in terms of decades, right? So everything I was going through on a day-to-day basis, I had those 2 people like keeping me in check, which is really fun.
I think when it comes into that like work-life balance and also just finding those peers that they don't just level you up. They kind of like, I guess, like maybe kind of do like those check-ins or kind of keep you sane. I have like probably 3 good, strong coworkers I still reach out to from both of my prior job and to include one of my old managers. But yeah, just once a month, every now and then, we kind of just catch up. We shoot the shit, kind of just with that, or I have a few buddies. We hang out at a local cigar bar and kind of just like unwind for the day, talk about the stuff we can talk about. Like, oh man, we had this thing going on today, and it's like. But then I also have a separate friend group that's like not in cybersecurity at all. And it's like, because sometimes it's like when you're just around it 24/7, it's just like sometimes you just want to break. And it's just like I myself have 2 young kids. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm the coach actually for my 3-year-old's T-ball team right now. They ended up not having a coach, and if they didn't get one, they were gonna not have the team. I'm like, well, 1, I want my son to do T-ball, and 2, I'm like, I guess I can coach some kids. And I jokingly, you might get a chuckle out of this. So I had to go take this like how to train children, like coaching kids, little like webinar thing online. And I posted it in my tech network. I'm like, guys, look, I can be a SOC manager now. It's like, and it's just, it was a poke on fun for some, like the SOC managers, the managers will understand like that joke. But no, it was kind of funny and cool. But yeah, it's such a nice time to kind of just unplug those sometimes and just like go relax, not be in front of a screen, not have my phone blowing up, not be worrying about vulnerabilities or casework or SLAs. And just like that time to unplug is, I think the older I get, the more I look back when I was really young in my career, just like grinding, go, those 12, 15-hour days. And it's like, man, like I really may have missed some time where it's like, as I get further and deeper in my career, and I'm sure you can relate to this, it's just like that time's important. And especially like I the one thing I kind of push for a lot of my friends is that family time, work-life balance. And so when you're in like a really strong rut, I guess, it's so glad to hear that you kind of found those strong mentors and colleagues and friends to kind of bolster you up. So that's fantastic.
Actually, you mentioned coaching. We moved towns, and so I didn't have a community here. So like going to the cigar bar wasn't, a thing because I didn't have any people. I started coaching my kids' little flag football teams, and
cool.
That really centered me in a lot of ways. Number 1, you had to put your phone away and go out, sure. But number 2, I got other friends that weren't just cyber friends. And it was funny. Last night we had a work event. We went to the rodeo here in town. Rodeos in Denver.
Oh, cool. Heck yeah.
And I'm with my work colleagues and we're doing work things and a family came up and was like, hey, coach. And it was like really jarring because my worlds were meeting. And it was so weird because everything in my professional world is distributed, right? I've got one coworker in Colorado where I live, and that's it. Everyone else is in Dallas, Miami, like they're all over, right? And so when local and not, it crashed and it was really strange. And they were like, why'd those people call you coach? And I was like, you have to ask? What are you talking about? Like, of course people call me coach.
Yeah, it's one of my titles.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't know this, but my team, when I was running that big team, I didn't know this, but they were calling me coach behind my back like it was an insult. And then I was like, why would that be insulting? What are you talking about?
I think it's so weird, like when worlds collide. So like I obviously used to be in law enforcement, and obviously when my worlds collided, it was like, oh man, did I arrest this person? Did I do something? It was kind of a weird world collide, but every now and then it was a positive. Usually I never, thank goodness, never had like a negative, like, hey, you arrested me last year. Like, oh, I didn't. I was another ginger that worked on the south side. But I had one really cool interaction. I was downtown and I was at an event with my kids, and like it was some mom where ideally she came up, it's like, hey, like you helped out with a car accident we were in. I was really appreciative. Like you were super nice. I just saw you, wanted to say thanks. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. And my wife's like, who is that? I'm like, I think that was someone I worked with. Like I helped out at in a car accident like 6 months ago. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird like almost like Twilight Zone moment of just like, oh, this is kind of weird. But
yeah, like you feel like you're cheating on your other half of your life.
Well, Sean, I have about 2 or 3 more questions for you, man, and we'll kind of wrap it up. I have one fun one that I kind of like to ask is, when you're not doing cyber, when you're not working with doing the CTO field of things, what do you like to do for fun? What do you do to kind of unplug, relax for the weekend, and kind of kick back and take your mind off cyber?
We live on a farm. We moved out. We did the whole city thing and then we bailed. So we actually live about an hour north of Denver. So I'm looking at sheep. I'm looking at goats, looking at turkeys. We do like 3 acres of lavender and farm that. So,
oh, cool.
When the weather's nice, that's another good break, right? Where you have to like put your phone down and leave, and you don't have to respond to text messages because you're holding the shovel and doing whatever that is. And that's like a good break for me. So it makes me feel, and especially with touching grass, right?
Yeah.
People talk about that all the time. I have to touch grass. I have a lot of grass. It takes me 3 days to mow my lawn.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a really good thing for me to get out there and go do the work and get your hands dirty. I had a manager before who was like, Sean, your fingernails are always dirty. What's wrong with you? And I was like, I live on a farm. Like, of course they're always dirty. It'd be weird if they were clean.
It's funny. I can't relate to the 3 days of mowing grass, but like when I was growing up, I was the youngest of two, and after my brothers moved out, I was the last one with my dad. That we only had 2.5 acres, but I had to push mow, trim. We had a ride-on mower, but he didn't let me use it, and we had like a little horse pasture and stuff, and I had to mow, and it took me like half the day or almost the whole day to mow our entire like yard because we had some orange groves and a bunch of stuff, and it was just like. Yeah, it was a weekend thing where sometimes I'd start like Friday morning and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do half it today. I'll do the other half tomorrow. I'll do it on a Saturday. But that was like it was a weird nuance because then I joined the military and I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I don't have to mow my yard anymore. It's so nice. Well, someday when we were like on a weekend, they grabbed like 12 of us, loaded us into the back of like an LMTV big old truck that was pulling a trailer. They picked up a trailer at the time. I'm like, man, where are we going? They're like, don't judge. They're like, don't look outside. Just keep your heads in your guys' books and read. And like, we drove like for an hour into like the boony woods in Missouri.
The
And
story doesn't sound like it's going to end well.
oh man, it's more funny than anything. So we get to this random part of Missouri that's on the base, and it's just like grass up to your shoulders. And they unclimp this trailer, and this is like at 7 a.m. And they say, okay, we're gonna be back here at 6 p.m. And in this trailer, there's a box of MREs, a jug of water, and a bunch of like mowing tools, trimming tools. And they're like, you guys are gonna do area beautification and make this camping area good again. I'm like, wait a minute. So we're mowing grass? They're like, you're mowing grass. I'm like, this is literally what I joined the Army to get away from. I hate you guys so much. And yeah, for the whole day, me and like 12 of my buddies had to go do yard work in the middle of a camping ground in the Missouri on Camp Leonard Wood. And it was somewhat peaceful, relaxing, but it was just like such an eye twitch. But I can somewhat attest, and I know that pain of mowing the grass and just having a day out though. But I don't know. I think I learned from my dad that like yard work can also be so soothing in a sense, in its own kind of way. Maybe I don't know if you get that same kind of zen when you're out kind of just working on the farm or doing all the chores, but it also might be different for having a small 2.5 acre set of land where it's like, this is going to take me a day. But
I'm now starting to see all the like traits of my father like showing up in me, and I'm like, yeah, mow the lawn. This is going to be great. And I'm like hearing his voice play out of my mouth, and I think I'm just getting old. I think that's it.
well, Sean, I have 2 more questions for you. And one is kind of maybe for our mid to senior level folks, like looking to jump into that CTO or kind of CISO role. What advice would you have for those trying to make that next jump in that career kind of pipeline to get up to that level of management?
Yeah, a lot of what I do in my role is communication. And it's just really sorting out the complex technical matters and then delivering that message to people who aren't technical and being that go-between. And then you reverse it and go the other way as well. So the more you can distill and you can simplify messaging, that's the key. One of our engineers I was working with, and he was like, oh, sorry, I talk too much. I'm very long-winded. We need to get this information out there. And it's like, no, you don't. You need to find the couple bits that you're saying that are very valuable because the rest of it's getting lost in this longer conversation.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln said, sorry for the long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one. Right. And I think brevity in communication is really important when you're trying to build something bigger and non-technical, which a lot of our stuff is people, process, technology, right? The technology stuff's always going to be long-winded. Let it be there. The people on process side, not so much. And I think that's probably my second piece of advice is remember the 3, right? It's always got to come in that triangle. And we show up all the time and are just over putting and rotating on, we'll solve all your problems. We probably won't. Let's talk about how we can solve the rest of these problems, the things that are a little more nuanced, the things like really exciting stuff like policies and races. Like, yeah, the super, like why we got into cyber, right? To build a good policy.
Good old GRC.
Yeah.
It's like,
but those are critically important. So I think being able to kind of walk the line on detail and for the right audience. And then second, being very aware of the programs you're building in where you're building them, right?
Yeah, no, 100%, Sean. But this is fantastic, Sean. Thank you so much for coming onto the channel. As a huge thank you, as always, I'm going to make sure you get a link to our GingerHacker swag shop, and you get to pick a nice item as an appreciation of letting me steal some time out of your day. But The final question I have for you, and the last question I have for you, is for those trying to break into cyber, what's your last piece of advice that you would give?
Last piece, like the worst piece.
Final piece of advice. So, because that's the last question. Yeah.
For those trying to break into cyber, you have to have something you're good at. And on your earlier question of certification or whatever, a lot of companies are putting a lot of great free training resources out there. And I would prioritize the stuff you can learn under Cisco, under Microsoft, under Google, under Palo. Those free courses are really valuable. And that's, to me, how you get that first step, is you prove someone you know a topic set really, really well. And then from there, growing. I think that second step in your career, you have to prove that you can be off your center. Meaning, if you're really good at networking, or you're really good at identity, or you're really good at whatever, show you can learn and broaden your scope. You're going to lose detail, but that's okay. That's part of the next step. So for those breaking in, I would go build an expertise around one of those things.
Oh, perfect. I think that's now the head. And that's one thing we also really emphasize is, it's the free resources, or jokingly the YouTube Academy, finding stuff like Professor Messer, Jason Dion, Google, Coursera, Microsoft, AWS, all that stuff they have. There is great resources, and sometimes it's just hard and where to find them. But no, Sean, this was so fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me steal you for some time today. And everybody, thank you so much for checking out episode 2 of Breaking the Cyber for our 2026 season. And I can't wait to catch you guys on the next video. Keep hacking.